Another day, another Brady Tkachuk update. Today we're going over a few separate sources from TSN. Darren Dreger had a little bit of a piece on insider trading, and we also had what was the 32 Thoughts article published like half an hour before this video's recording time that gives us another piece of information as well. So, let's go over what Darren Dreger said on insider trading the other day as to how far apart the Senators and Brady Tkachuk are. Now, a quick aside before we get into the entire thing, having Chris Johnston on insider trading on TSN is actually pretty cool. He was always one of the better guys on Sportsnet in my opinion, and seeing him on the Steve Dangle Podcast Network was a great addition to their crew over there. So having him on TSN as well, another great voice in the room, isn't it? So when it comes to what Dreger said, a link will be in the description, by the way, to the full video if you want to go ahead and watch that. But pretty much Dreger says that the Senators are preparing to start the NHL season for 2021-2022 without Brady Tkachuk. Now, this normally would be seen as, okay, that's the next step in these negotiations, is to hold out and stand your ground as to how much you're willing to give this guy because he's apparently asking for too much, but you still can't go out there and ignore how important this seems to be. I'm not really too sure about the history, how often this happens, or how many times it has happened in the past, but the most recent one to me that comes to my mind is William Nylander. William Nylander and that situation in Toronto, that stuff doesn't happen often, and for Brady Tkachuk to be in this position where maybe it could be happening again, where the player ends up not playing with the team for the first few weeks of the season and has to re-sign by, I believe it's December 1st, in order to actually finish off the year with the team. That's not a common occurrence in the National Hockey League, but I will say if there's any time for it to happen again like it did with Nylander, this would seem to be the most appropriate for Brady Tkachuk based off of the amount of money that he is apparently asking for and the amount of money that he has turned down already. If you want to go ahead and check the video we made about that, well, it goes over how Brady Tkachuk apparently wants north of $8.4 million on an 8-year deal, which, as we highlighted in that video, is a big overpayment. And it's not even really all too close, I think. Before we go over on to the next part, I wanted to give a few more updates over here. This is what Andy Strickland said yesterday on Twitter. Lack of communication from Ottawa to Brady is a big reason as to what's preventing Tkachuk from being signed. The Sens owner has a history of this with star players. The team is set on only signing Tkachuk to a 7 or 8 year term versus doing a bridge deal. The Sens at times have gone several days without reaching out to the Tkachuk camp. There's a solution and a deal to be made. Again, the Sens have a history of doing this with their star players. And I mean, Eugene Melnyk's gonna Eugene Melnyk, eh? I think it's kind of obvious where my take lies on this. Yeah, it's kind of a weird negotiating tactic for the Senators to go out there and just stop communicating to their players, not get in touch with them for days and allow this process to drag on even more. But Eugene Melnyk's gonna Eugene Melnyk, I guess. Finally, we had ourselves the 32 Thoughts article published by Friedman earlier today. You can go over into the description, check out the link as well. Thought number 5 goes over an update here. He says it's not DEFCON 1 between Ottawa and Brady Tkachuk, but there's a challenging philosophical disagreement. Now, DEFCON 1, I actually had to Google what that meant. It's a pretty good analogy over here. Pretty much means there's nuclear war that is imminent, and the US government has to be at maximum readiness. But I think a lot of people who watch these videos are smarter than I am already, so you probably already knew that. But he does say, Elliot Friedman does, that the Sens believe Tkachuk wants to be there long term, and I don't think they're wrong. But Ottawa wants that commitment now, and the winger is not ready to go 7 or 8 years. There are two factors at play. First, the shackles should be off the cap in 3 years, opening new contract possibilities, and even though Coach DJ Smith and linemate Drake Batherson were extended, I think Tkachuk wants to make sure ownership instability is not something he regrets locking in for. So, long story short, it does not appear that Brady is ready to go 100% all in 8 years yet. And it kind of aligns with a few other reports that we had from other insiders on TSN specifically, discussing whether or not Tkachuk would want a bridge or want a long-term deal. I think with the entire scope of news that we have had over the past few days, it just really cements to me that Tkachuk does not want to go long-term. Because that will be the only rationalization, in my opinion, to the entire $8.4+ million number that we had the other day from Pierre LeBrun. Like, would it not make sense for him to say, okay, I really don't want to go 8 years, so if you're going to offer me 8 years, I'm going to say 8.4 plus. Like, just make it so unrealistically high that you're not going to be able to offer me that money. Therefore, we only stick to a bridge deal, and then if you talk about a bridge deal, the entire philosophical debate that we had earlier in the previous video comes about again. Just for the recap over here, Brady Tkachuk has been a 52-point player consistently over 82 games in every season he has played in the National Hockey League so far. if he gets a 3-year contract extension, it should honestly not be worth more than $7 million. Matthew Tkachuk got $7 million when he was coming off of a 70-point year in the NHL. Barzal kicked off his NHL campaign with an 80-point year. Brayden Point is Brayden Point. These guys got $7 and $6.9 million on a 3-year extension, respectively. Elias Pettersson just re-signed. He got himself a $7.3 million AAV contract for 3 years. Brady Tkachuk, if he goes bridge, should not be getting anything more than these guys. So even the 3-year time frame brings itself a few other comparables that I think you can appropriately apply to the situation over here. It's just, if the Sens are really committed to going long-term, then I guess that's kind of why we have a problem over here. But either way, those have been the updates as to Brady Tkachuk and the entire situation so far. I wanted to go over another part of the Senators in this video, just the lineup in general, you know? This is what Daily Faceoff displays right here as the current Ottawa Senators lineup, or I mean, at least it's updated previously on October 4th. So this is what the team was back then. If we try to take a look at what this team could look like without Brady Tkachuk, it gets pretty interesting. Also, you have to take a look at a few of the other guys over here as well. Colin White got injured, so that's super unfortunate to see. We'll probably see Shane Pinto, of all people, go up into the lineup and fill out a third-line role. I actually would be a pretty big fan of that. I like Pinto a lot, and I know a lot of Senators fans like him too. He was winning faceoffs like crazy the other day, man. Boy, was I wrong on my draft assessment of that guy back a few years ago. But if Brady Tkachuk is no longer on that first line with Josh Norris and Drake Batherson, is it time to give Tim Stützle first-line minutes? Is he going to be that guy to fill in on that line and start getting looks on every unit at the top end? I don't know about you, but I for one would be down for seeing Tim Stützle go out there and play a little bit more. We saw the development go on in 2020-2021 as the year was progressing. The Tim Stützle that started out in the 2021 season in January was not the same Tim Stützle that ended the season off. And so, heading into year 2, you could say, oh, sophomore slump, he's due for it, whatever, a lot of guys go through the slump. It wouldn't necessarily surprise me if he had a sophomore slump, but if there's anybody to go out there and not have a sophomore slump, I think Tim Stützle is the guy, especially if he's given a lot more playing time and a bigger role in the team, you know? We know this guy loves having the puck on his stick. He kind of plays his best when he has it, and just giving him more chances to do that this year would be a pretty interesting experiment, if I say so myself. Plus, you would still have Connor Brown in that second line, so you could still have a consistent scoring presence throughout your top 6. And I mean, Zach Sanford also kind of makes up for that physical edge that Brady Tkachuk is leaving behind when he doesn't suit up on the team. Not to say that Zach Sanford is a 100% Brady Tkachuk replacement, it's just in certain elements of the game you could say that that could be so. But if you remove Colin White and you remove Brady Tkachuk from this lineup over here, who do you go in there and replace them with? I don't know. Is it an Igor Sokolov? Is it a Tyler Ennis who is on a PTO? You maybe sign him to a real-time deal? Honestly, I kind of like Tyler Ennis. We already made a video talking about whether or not he could go over to the Vancouver Canucks, and I mean, his body of work kind of speaks for itself. Years in the league, super speedy guy, hardworking even though he is small, so I don't know, there are a few options if you want to go out there and label them in the comment section below. That is definitely your floor to go ahead and do that. But if the Ottawa Senators go out there without Brady Tkachuk next season, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. Is it the right move to hold out? Is it the right move for the Senators to stand their ground and say, okay, we're not going to pay you that much, Brady, come on. And if you were Pierre Dorion and or Eugene Melnyk, would you do things differently? Would you just say, okay, screw it, here's 8.4, you want it, you got it, here you go, buddy. Come back. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, another thing before we end off this video, the previous one made its way onto the Ottawa Senators subreddit, and I'm going to be honest, the first thing that I saw when I scrolled by and I saw that post, I was like, oh god, I hope they don't rip me in the comments. And guess what? The comment section was kind of filled with opinions that I was kind of expecting to see, especially from the Reddit community. That's definitely not to disrespect anybody who is over there. It's a nice little community over there for sure, but it was made very clear that a lot of them don't like my content, and it's understandable to see why. You know, if you're looking for top-tier analysis from insiders or good steaming hot takes with evidence to back them up, that's really not this channel. I'm not really going out there trying to be any better than the people that you see on TV. I'm just kind of trying to be a guy who likes the sport and is talking to this microphone as if he's talking to a friend at a coffee shop. That's always been the vibe that I'm going for, so if anybody's going out there trying to say that I'm not some good analyst or that my takes are bad or whatever, yeah, that's kind of the point. I'm not trying to be an analyst. This is just chill, casual conversation, and I get it, a lot of people are not going to be on board with that, so it is completely alright with me. Either way, though, all the stuff I said at the beginning, let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this Scrolls 99, and bye.